I was recently in war-torn Ukraine, and here's why Western Ukraine is probably safer than your country. Hello and welcome back to the Traveling Reports. Today I'm going over why Ukraine is misunderstood as dangerous and why actually it's one of the safer countries in the West. I'm going to differentiate a lot in this video on East versus West, as places like Dnipro or Krovsk or even as close as Odesa are not as safe as in Lviv or Lutsk. Lutsk is sort of more being bombed now as they have a lot of military equipment there, but Lutsk, Rivne, places like this, Ivano-Frankivsk, Chernivtsi, these places are very safe relative to other areas of Ukraine, and it's with this that you get sort of a more chill, laid-back vibe, and also cheap prices, but it's still very safe, and it's very high quality in services. While I personally do not like Lviv, I do not enjoy the way that they have their services set up. I believe that I do enjoy, Ivano-Frankivsk. I do enjoy Chernivtsi. And so it's with this that you kind of get a more, laid-back lifestyle, and you can live on less than what you would have been able to, in Poland or in Moldova or in Romania. Now, services are not going to be as high quality as in Poland. They're not going to be as high quality as in Romania. And for many, I believe that having a vacation home or something like this is much more impactful in Ukraine than living there. I believe that it is very difficult, relatively speaking, to live currently in Ukraine, if not just because people are so impacted by the war in their mentality. However, that does not entail that it's not a place that you shouldn't visit. And I believe truly that Ivano-Frankivsk or places like that are extremely interesting from a perspective of cheap living while still being safe, while still being developed. Recently there was a lot of bombing campaigns. None of them went to Ivano-Frankivsk, none of them went to Chernivtsi. And a lot of these places have entirely escaped the war. Zakarpattia is essentially entirely out of the war's reach. And especially places like Uzhgorod and so forth, you have people that are too close to the EU to really get bombed. And so it leads to, greater autonomy. And there are great connections from, for example, Chernivtsi to Chișinău or Chernivtsi to Aichi or. So there's a lot of places you can go and truly dive into the culture of Ukraine. However, of course, I want to disclaim this, with the fact that the East is much different from the West. The West is very safe, whereas the East is very unsafe. And, a lot of it does have to do with the fact that, indeed, Ukraine is under martial law. And if you want to do certain things, you cannot due to military law. For instance, if you want to, go outside after 12, it is technically illegal. If you want to go to certain places around the world with your employees and they're male, not in all cases can you. And so it creates a divergence in how things are run and so forth. It's with this that Ukraine is significantly safer than what people think, but it's also not a perfect society. I think that realistically, while things are improving slowly, especially in terms of business and in terms of finance, things are moving slowly, and they always will, because the mentality of Ukraine is not quick moving, as it has been in other post-Soviet countries. And a lot of the people are kind of inherently okay with how things are going now, and they don't want to change. And that's the reality of it. Now, there are Western brands and so forth in Ukraine as well. So, you can go to McDonald's for fairly cheap. You can go get a Pepsi, and, there's not sanctions on these things. And so it's inherently very easy to go out spend time, make things, that you want to last, and then buy houses, have a cheap vacation home, get away from all the noise in the cities, and truly, if you're looking for relocation, feel free to comment home down below, and I will be sure to give you a link where you can do first 15 minutes free of charge on a consultation call. Also, I have opened up a Patreon. If you'd like to contribute $5, $10, or $50, you can check out the Patreon down below. That said, getting back to the safety aspect of this country, I never once felt severely unsafe outside of near the front line in Ukraine. I believe that it is something that sort of have to realize is that people really don't have the same mentality towards the war anymore. They've gotten used to it. And so this is something that both is a benefit and a drawback of Ukraine. And so in the West, people don't go, underground to shelters in air raid alerts. It's something that, they feel safe, and you'll feel safe as well, because the mentality it's very together right now. Even though people seem unbothered, they're very close together, and that's something that is nice. Irrespective, like I said, I think that realistically what you're going to see in Western Ukraine more and more is more development, more ability to move around, and as time goes on, I think that there is going to be opportunities that weren't there before. Regardless, I think that Ukraine has been a wonderful experience. I'm presently here in beautiful Chișinău, Moldova, and if you enjoyed this video, I would appreciate a like. I tried to get as much information on the ground as possible. I will go over a trip recap of what the opportunities are in Ukraine eventually, so if you're at all interested in that, feel free to subscribe. If you really liked the video, feel free to share. Without further ado, this has been the Traveling Report, and I'm off.